So my name is Castricato. My talk is RLAIF user autonomy and controllability. And I did this work while I was a research scientist at Eleuther AI. I now have a startup that focuses on these kinds of problems specifically, but some of my work at Eleuther kind of set the stage for where this kind of stuff goes. So set the stage. Stella and I worked on a problem called the pink elephant problem, where if you ask the language model not to talk about something, it's more likely to talk about something. So here is an example of, don't talk about American universities, only talk about British universities. And by prefacing the prompt with don't talk about British, don't talk about American universities, it's more likely to actually discuss American universities. In the Pink Elephants paper, we actually found that basically unilaterally ask it to not talk about something, encourage it to talk about something, and even using stuff like negative prompting or CFG actually encourage it even more to talk about something. So this is clearly something that current controllability approaches don't really, current controllability approaches don't really allow you to do. And you can't really use regex here because if you're saying don't talk about American universities, well, unless you have a giant list of all the American universities for any kind of such pink elephant, it doesn't really play very nicely. And then Gary Marcus also tweeted right before the paper came out about putting an actual elephant in a room. And so text to image models also suffer from this problem as well. We didn't really work on that. We mostly work on the text side of things. So the pink elephant problem is asking a model not to talk about something and bring up a different topic instead. And this is an overwhelming problem for people wanting to deploy models in production, because if you have a model on your website, you never want to really talk about competitors, you never really want to talk about competing products, or if it does talk about competing products, you want it to defer to your product instead, right? And there's a large brand risk that's present if you don't do that kind of mitigation. We actually found that this kind of problem mapped itself really, really well. It's RLAIF, where you could do rewrites to remove the pink elephant. However, using traditional constitutional AI, where your constitution would be don't talk about something, the re-ranker step that traditional constitutional AI actually doesn't really allow for this very, very fine-grained controllability that's required to get these DPO pairs, where the positive pair doesn't mention the pink elephant and mentions the gray elephant instead, and the negative pair doesn't mention the gray elephant and mentions the pink elephant. Using a ranker, you'd have to do an insane number of samples to even come close to the kinds of controllability that's required to create a DPO data set like this. So constitutional AI wasn't really an answer to this, so we came up with something called direct principal feedback, where we generate a response. In this case, we generate a response that has the pink elephant. We generate a critique to remove the pink elephant, and then we revise to remove the pink elephant and replace it with the gray elephant. And this pipeline where we have a critique and revision directly fed from the response, and being able to very fine-grained control this actually opens up a whole new set of problems that are now tackleable with RLAIF that weren't actually doable with constitutional AI. So the pink elephants is an example here, but since this paper came out, I've done stuff like adding tools during the RLAIF step, or adding retrieval during RLAIF, and things that traditionally you would do during an SFT step can now be entirely done during DPO and don't actually require a separate SFT step to accomplish. So the set of problems that are now solvable via RLAIF opens greatly, and the pink elephants is the first kind of problem in that direction. But we also, oh wait, that was literally what I should change slides. I forgot that I had the slide. That's basically just what I talked about. Quick summary, it's in the deck. I'm gonna go to the next one. But we also went a step further, and we decided, well, we have this degree of controllability, and we know that the preferences that we were generating were incredibly high quality. Can we actually just start including those preferences in the prompt of the language model and do not only DPO, but conditional DPO on the preference itself, right? And our approach here was to literally just include the pink elephant and gray elephant in the prompt when doing DPO, and that actually allowed people to dynamically swap out the pink or gray elephant, and having a diverse enough set during training meant that we were able to generalize to many, many different pink and gray elephant pairs. So if you are a bank, let's say bank X, and you don't want to talk about bank Y, you just change the bank that's present in the prompt, And like now all of a sudden you no longer talk about competitors. And everyone up until this point, as far as I'm aware, had been studying constitutional AI as a global optimization for a language model rather than thinking about it as a local optimization. It's really the key here is that what safety means for you is different than what safety means for me. And individualizing safety and understanding safety in a way that is highly user dependent and highly context dependent is really, in my mind, one of the next big steps for RLAIF and one of the next big steps for alignment. So one of the projects that I'm actually working on with Luca right now is generating a massive data set of like constitutional AI using this exact approach. And we've generated somewhere near like 10 billion tokens, and it's literally still going right now. I'll check in on it after this talk. And the hope is that like we can now start just concatenating different like procedurally generated, highly diverse. We've optimized the constitutions for diversity, highly diverse constitutions to the prompt, so that when you actually want to train, when you actually want to inference the model, you can put in any weird constitution that you could possibly think of, and your model is now individualized for safety in that direction. So there's also like questions here about like what can we actually, what are the limits of direct principal feedback? Like what can this critique and revision step actually do? And like I've experimented with things from retrieval to tool use to using this for like process reward modeling, where like I'll rewrite various steps of like chain of thought to remove like certain ideas from chain of thought. So if you have like an agent that's supposed to provide mortgage rates, you don't want the chain of thought to ever mention race. So you'll remove any mention of race from chain of thought. And the hope is that, and I haven't shown this, and if anyone wants to show this, I'd be happy to work with them. The hope is that if you remove race enough from chain of thought and you tell the model that including race in reasoning results in objectively worse, like objectively more biased mortgage rates, hopefully then the model will no longer include like these notions of bias in its reasoning process. How much? Okay. So if anyone wants to collaborate, there's a tally. So it's just like name, email, short bio. You know, I have a lot of cool infrastructure that I set up for all of this, and I love working on like cool open science projects, and I'm always happy to talk to cool people. I guess I can do questions.